In this video, I will show you how to find missing sides and angles in a right triangle using a variety of methods. Now, this triangle has more information than we need in order to find x and y. So I'm going to split the information up into different types so that we can find x and y in different ways. All right, so let's focus in on this problem. We can find what angle x is just by looking at the 30.7 degrees. We don't need anything else. And the quickest way to do that is to subtract from 90. All of the angles in a triangle add up to 180, but the two acute angles will add up to 90. So if I just do 90 minus 30.7, then that will give me the missing angle. So that is 59.3. All right, so that's one way to find angle x. Now, if I use these two sides, I can also find angle x in a different way. I can use my trigonometry, meaning sine, cosine, and tangent. So first I need to identify the hypotenuse, which is always across from the 90-degree angle. So this will be the hypotenuse. If I circle the angle that I'm looking for and draw an arrow, that arrow points at the opposite side. The other side is the adjacent side. And now I'm going to write this word SOHCAHTOA to remind me of the definitions of sine, cosine, and tangent. So first I have to decide which one of these trig functions I'm going to use. Well, I have the 19 and the 32. That is opposite and adjacent. So that tells me I'm going to be doing the tangent function because tangent is opposite over adjacent. So I can write tangent of the angle, in this case x, is equal to opposite over adjacent, so 32 over 19. When the variable is inside the trig function, this is when we do the inverse. So I will go like this and write inverse tangent of 32 over 19 is equal to x. And at that point, it's just a calculator problem. So I can do inverse tangent by hitting second tangent and 32 over 19. So that is 59.300. Okay, so that's another way we can find x. So we could use the 30.7 and subtract from 90, or we can use tangent, an inverse tangent, to find it from the sides. All right, now let's talk about how we can find y in two different ways. Look at the sides of the triangle. Notice that there are no angles involved in this. If we are dealing with all sides, then what I can do is use the Pythagorean Theorem. You know, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Just remember, the c always has to be the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle. So this y is the hypotenuse. So when I set up the Pythagorean Theorem, 19 squared plus 32 squared equals, the hypotenuse has to be over here by itself. So 19 squared plus 32 squared. 361 361, 1024. Whoa. Okay, if I add these two together, that's 1,385. Is equal to y squared. If I want to get just y, I need to take the square root of both sides. So that is 37.216. Got to round up. So that is one way to get y. All right, I can use all of the sides to find the third side, Pythagorean theorem. Or I could use my trigonometry. So again, that means I'm going to be using sine, cosine, or tangent. So whenever I want to use my trigonometry, I need to start by labeling the hypotenuse, which is always across from the 90-degree angle. Next, I circle the angle that I'm given, and I draw an arrow. That arrow will indicate the opposite side. The other side is the adjacent side. So trigonometry means SOHCAHTOA. Okay, sine, cosine, tangent. Which one am I going to use? Well, I have the 19 and the y. That's opposite and hypotenuse. That tells me to use the sine function, which involves opposite and hypotenuse. So I will write sine 30.7 is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, 19 over y. So when the variable is in the denominator like this, that is when we swap. All right, I'm going to swap the y and the sine 30.7. So I'm going to get y over here, and then I will have 19 over the sine of 30.7. And this is something I can simply put in my calculator. That's 37.215. All right, so that's how I can find y using trigonometry. So for problem number 3, I need to find both missing sides of this triangle. So we're going to start by finding the missing side ST. So I will put an X on the ST because that's what I'm looking for. So it looks like I'm going to need to do my trigonometry, sine, cosine, or tangent. So let's start by identifying the hypotenuse, which is the 16. The hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle. Then let's circle the angle they gave us and draw an arrow. This arrow will point at the opposite side, which means that the other side must be the adjacent side. Okay, now it's time to write SOHCAHTOA. And I have to decide which of these I'm going to use, sine, cosine, or tangent. Well, which sides are we going to be working with? Well, I see I have the x and I have the 16. That's opposite and hypotenuse. Well, that means we're going to use the sine function because only the sine function involves the opposite and the hypotenuse. So I will write sine of the angle is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, x over 16. All right, how do I solve an equation like this? Well, you multiply. When the variable is in the top, you multiply by the denominator on both sides. That way these will cancel each other out, and you are ready for your calculator. Because x is now by itself, so I just need to type in 16 sine 34. So that's 8.947. So remember, that was ST. So I'm going to put the answers over here. So this will be 8.947. Next, I need to find side TU. And they kindly gave us a fresh triangle to work on, so I don't need to erase all my good work. And again, we will use our trigonometry. So this 16 is still the hypotenuse. It's across from the 90-degree angle. I'm finding TU, so this time I will put my x here at TU. Circle the angle that you're given, draw an arrow, and that will be the opposite side. Write SOHCAHTOA. Now decide which one you're going to use. Well, which sides are we using? We will definitely have to use the 16, and the x is what we're trying to find. Oh, I forgot to say that this is adjacent. So that is adjacent and hypotenuse. That tells us that we will be using the cosine function because only cosine involves adjacent and hypotenuse. So I will now write cosine 34 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So that is x over 16. So how do I solve an equation like this? Well, you multiply both sides by the denominator, because that way these will cancel each other out. So that will give you the answer. I just have to type in 16 cosine 34. So that is 13.265. Got to round up. 13.265. All right, so that was TU. All right, what is next? Time to find some angle measures. Let's start with angle S. Angle S is going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience, because this, that was from Screen Rant. And anyway, we're given one angle in the triangle, and so the other angle is going to be complementary to this one. They got to add up to 90. So the easiest thing to do is just to go 90 minus 34. Okay, so obviously that's going to be 56. 56 degrees. But I'm just doing 90 minus 34. Okay, I guess that was it. Moving on. So problem number 4. We're going to find side length US. All right, we're only missing one side length. I am not going to need my trigonometry for this problem. See how I'm given two sides and I'm missing the third side? That's when you do the Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, that's when you do your a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Just remember that the c squared has to be the hypotenuse squared. And the hypotenuse is x because it's across from the 90-degree angle. That means I will have 12 squared plus 19 squared is equal to x squared. So this is 144 plus, I forget what 19 squared is. 361 is equal to x squared. So we'll just add these together. It's 505 is equal to x squared. And then you get x alone by doing the square root of both sides. So let's see, the square root of 505. Sometimes you have to hit this button to make it give you a decimal. So that's 22.472. So that's how you find side US. Okay, now I need to find the measure of angle S. And they gave me a fresh new triangle that I can use. Okay, angle S is right here. I don't have the other angle, so I can't just subtract from 90. So that means I'm going to have to use my trigonometry, sine, cosine, and tangent. So let's start by labeling the hypotenuse, which is right here, always across from the 90-degree angle. Next, circle the angle that you are looking for. Draw an arrow. That will be pointing at the opposite side. The other side is adjacent. So, time to write SOHCAHTOA. Which one of these are we going to use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Well, think about which two sides you're going to use. Obviously, we've got the 12 and the 19. That's opposite and adjacent. That tells us that we need to use the tangent function, which involves opposite and adjacent. So we will go tangent of the angle that we circled, even though it's x, is equal to opposite over adjacent, so 19 over 12. How do we solve a problem like this? When the variable is inside the trig function, you inverse. So we will now do inverse tangent of 19 over 12. And that will give you x. All right, so to the calculator. Second tangent, so that's inverse tangent of 19 over 12. That's 57.724. So that's the measure of angle S. All right, next we are supposed to find the measure of angle U. Now the long way would be to use trigonometry all over again. But I'm confident enough in my answer to the previous question that I'm going to use it to find the answer to this question. So we just found that angle S was 57.724 degrees. Now we're supposed to find angle U. But these two angles have to add up to 90. So the quickest thing to do is to do 90 minus 57.724. 32.276. All right, and that's going to do it for this assignment.